What if I told you one of the best cameras you can buy today is not a 2025 camera or a 2024 camera or even an upcoming camera? One of the best value cameras today that you can buy is actually a camera that was released in 2019. And when it was new, it was pretty expensive. It cost £2,000 something pound, brand new. But right now, you can get these on eBay, you can get these on Facebook Marketplace for £600-700. I managed to get mine for just £500 in really good condition. And I'm talking about this camera here, and this is the Panasonic S1. Panasonic do this thing, right, where they don't give you the best camera on day one. They take the camera, they listen to feedback, they give it patches, and a couple years down the line, it's almost like a completely different camera. Think of the autofocus improvements with the S5, and the S1 is no exception. The S1, with all the updates over the years, has essentially now become the equivalent of an S1H. Without being hyperbolic, both the S1 and the S1H will shoot 6K full frame. Obviously, the S1H is a much more expensive camera with that OLPF, cooling, a bigger body, other stuff. But now they've reached a point when it comes to video specs that essentially they are almost the same camera in my opinion, and I did rent an S1H. When you look at the £600 to £800 price range, what kind of cameras can you buy? Mind you, I bought mine for £500 on eBay. You can only really get good APS-C cameras with just about stretching your budget to a Panasonic S9, which is full frame. But the idea is that full frame isn't really in this budget. But the Panasonic S1 isn't a £600-700 camera. It's, as I mentioned, a 2K plus camera when it was new. And when you hold it, it certainly feels that way. You can tell that this is not a cheap camera. This is an expensive camera. The body is rugged. It feels solid and premium. And the fact is, the specs do not compare to anything else in this price range. We're talking 6K, open gate, full frame, absolutely excellent IBIS at all. You got a nice EVF, and you've got this like build quality that it feels like a tank. It's heavy to hold. It just feels premium. It doesn't feel like a cheap camera. The most amazing thing about this camera, obviously, is the incredible 6K image quality. It's sharp, it's beautiful, and the files, even though they're 200 megabytes per second, which is nothing compared to like a Nikon ZR in Red Raw. Panasonic has incredible image quality, and you still may find filmers who profess that the image quality that comes out of these Panasonic cameras like the S1H is actually better than the Sony FX3 or modern Sony cameras. And as I mentioned, this is very similar to an S1H. After all, the Panasonic S1 was always meant to be a professional camera, and it was certainly priced as a professional camera. So whatever you're getting for the money is really, really good. So if the S1 is so amazing, why am I selling mine? Well, now that I dropped the bombshell, I'm going to explain the weakest point of the Panasonic camera from this era, all the full frame cameras, including the micro four thirds cameras. And that is that all these cameras use DFD focus. They use contrast-based focus. And I'd say that with the S5 and S1, with all the patches and updates, it's usable. It's somewhat usable if you use a native L-mount lens or the right lens. In my case, because I use Canon lenses, like for example, I'm shooting now with a Canon 16-35 with a 6mm mount. The Canon lens works terrible with this era of cameras, with the S1 or the S1H. Don't even talk about the autofocus in the S1H. But the idea is that the autofocus with the S1 is not good. It's not, I'd say, reliable. The Panasonic S1 is a very good film camera, especially for its price range. The 6K full frame is so sharp, and when you're filming, you're usually using manual focus. I recently did a client shoot and I was using manual focus, and I was getting these stunning 6K images. When you pair the S1 with like a cinema lens, the IBIS can be very useful. And the fact is that the IBIS on this camera is still probably better than new Sony cameras, better than the Sony FX3, than the Sony A7 IV. So if you're using this camera as a film camera and you're just taking advantage of manual focus and you're not using autofocus, my goodness, this is like a machine. And actually, that's partly one of the reasons why I actually bought this camera, to use it as a film camera. But I found that in terms of my needs as a solo creator, I kind of need the autofocus. A lot of people have complained about the image quality that comes from the S5 too, and they say that for some reason the original S5 and hence this S1 has like a better, clearer image quality, if I'm not wrong, and that just increases the value of this camera. And I've certainly seen from the 6K footage, it's so nice and so sharp. I recall being surprised at how the footage from the S1 I found was actually better than the footage that came out of my S9. So, for the £600-700 price range, should you buy the Panasonic S9 or should you buy something like a Sony ZV-E10 Mark II? Now, the answer, in my opinion, really depends on your needs and how badly you need the autofocus. If you're a solo creator, if you're a vlogger, if you're somebody who sticks your head in front of the camera, you need the autofocus, and I think that's where the S1 is just unreliable. It's not that it doesn't work, it's that when you have a camera, like in my case I've got my S9 which has phase detect autofocus, I always choose my S9 over the S1 because I know it's more reliable, and it's actually partly what influenced me into selling my S1. Now, in my opinion, the best value full frame camera you can buy is the Panasonic S9, which I'm filming on. I happen to get mine on Black Friday with a kit lens for £800. You can still get it quite cheap, and in my opinion, that's like the most camera you can buy for like £700-800. Especially when you consider that this is basically like a rebadged S5 II. If I do end up replacing my S1, honestly, I'm confused. What do I even replace it with? Because the value for this camera was so good. Do I get like something like a Sony ZV-E1? Do I get a S5 II? Do I even get a Nikon ZR? The problem with those cameras is the fact is they are expensive. So the money that I sell from this camera is going to be used towards them. But I really can't stress how the value for this camera is so good in its price range. If you've actually reached the end of this video, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Comment if you have any questions, and stay tuned for more videos.